Action activate!
Oh, yeah, almost forgot to put my microphone down, but then I did halfway through my O. It's me, Gazbot, better known here as the Gazbot Knight, and with me as always...
The Big Dawg Defender.
That's right, and it's Action Activate! Now, before we say anything, I can't see chat. So, Bigdawg, I'm going to have to ask you to be on chat duty. My chat bot pooped out for some reason, and I haven't had time to figure out what's wrong with it.
Well, I'm sorry it pooped out, but the good news is Dolly Girl said hi, and it says Alpha Romeo, like from Dirty Dancing.
Okay. Oh, wait. I do see a little bit of chat. I see that, but it's all squished, so it's like a sentence is this long. So, well, hello to Dolly Girl, hello to the Real Babu. I don't know what the Alfa Romeo is referring to. I just heard words.
I just heard words. Never mind.
Okay. Okay, well, so what are we doing here? Well, for those that don't know, this is a Power Rangers chat show. That's my art. Above, I am Gazbot. This is the Bigdawg. Usually we're going over the most recent episodes of the current season, Beast Morphers, but we're on hiatus. So we're doing a lot of chat, a little playing games, things like that. We're going to have some interviews coming up, not this week, but usually we start off with news and things like that before we get into the meat of the show. So is there any news or things you wanted to talk about, Bigdawg, before we get going?
Yes. First, catching up on chat, Matt Kendall Clare says, "Hey everybody, hi."
Hey Matt.
And Novel Animal said they normally check us out on YouTube, but are here for the stream. So
awesome.
Welcome for being here for the real thing,
welcome.
Live and in stereo. In regards to news, I've seen a lot more photos of the Roxy figure that should be coming out soon. I'm excited for it because it looks metallic, and I like Roxy as a character. What I don't love is the green shade.
I noticed that too. It's like a tint of some sort. I do hope maybe it's just that like lighting in Target or wherever they are that's giving it that tint. But
I think it's going to just be that way. I have a feeling they originally were thinking maybe it's from the Sentai where it's that green, that they were going to go that way. And then before production or after production, sorry, and when they were shooting the show, it was a lot more yellow, but I don't really know, unfortunately.
I will get it. I still think it looks cool and metallic. I like the character, so nothing's going to stop me from getting it, but I agree. I wish it didn't have that tint, or I hope it doesn't have that tint. It's also weird because I have Blaze right here, actually, and I love this figure, but he doesn't really have a metallic to him. Does the character Roxy have more metallic than he does in the show? I thought they were kind of similar, but...
I think she does,
she does.
I remember correctly. I don't remember just because... It's been so many weeks now since we watched.
Same.
But also, good news, though, in regards to figures, you and I got a very pleasant surprise last week in the form of the Lord Zed Lightning Collection figure.
Yes, indeed. And he is gorgeous.
He looks so good. It's funny, actually, I was talking to somebody over the weekend at the San Jose Super Toy Show, and we had a polite disagreement on the Lightning Collection. I am very much... for it, and they thought that it was not the greatest. And Lord Zed was my prime example of everybody wants it, it's hard to get, and nobody has anything bad to say outside of how they got it or when they can get it.
Right.
The figure itself, I haven't heard a single bad word about it.
Agreed. Same here. On any of them, really. And any complaints are sort of nitpicks of, oh, this could be better or whatever, but not these are terrible. And certainly they're better than what we've seen from Bandai. Like I have the Legacy Collection figures, and I liked those, but these I think are better. I mean, my only complaint would be that I wish they were the same height so I could mix them together, but, you know, it's two different companies. What are you going to do? Oh, my chat is somewhat working now. I see Matt Kendall Clare saying Roxy's morph suit is a different color in Go Busters. That's all, which is okay, similar to what you were saying. And Dolly Girl is impressed by Lord Zed's muscles, or maybe she means mine. I don't know. Maybe she's yeah, they are. They're like a dark red, but they have a good texture, like a wash to pop them out. The one thing I'll say, if you get this figure, he comes with extra hands and the Zed bomb as well. These pipes, like his veiny pipe things, are awesome.
Pipe, 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 pipe,
Pipe,
pipe.
pipe, 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 pipe. But they are very kind of delicate. So if you can see, I put his arm up with the staff here, and if I put it a little more, it probably would have snapped. Now, this isn't to say it's made badly. I mean, they're made for adults, not kids. But just be aware if you do decide to rough around with them or not careful. I could see that being the thing that breaks on this figure, unfortunately.
Good to know. Real Babu has a struggle where they don't know if they even want to open their Z up.
Oh, well, I'm a big fan of open box. I
Same.
mean, if it's something vintage and there's only a handful left in the world and it's like a piece of history, then okay, maybe not. But like new toys, I like opening them up, play with them, put them on my shelf, touch them, smell them, bite them, put them in the bathtub with me, whatever. And if I love the packaging so much, because some packaging is like a piece of art, I will then save it and put it in the closet, or maybe buy two and put one up on my wall if I love it that much. But 90% of my collection, I open it up and throw out the box because they are meant to be played with, touched, enjoyed. But if you enjoy keeping it in the box, I'm not going to argue with you. It's whatever makes you happy.
It's true. Let's see.
Matt Kendall said something.
The Lord Zed figure looks so cool, especially when you have
it is better when you actually have the figure. It's true. Well, as I've said online, GameStop is where we both got ours, and I've seen it a few others. Now, we're both in California in the U.S. I know outside of the U.S. it's really hard to get, but I'm betting that elsewhere, I don't know where everybody's located, but I'm betting if you check GameStop soon, you should have them because they got them this weekend, their new releases. So even if you didn't pre-order, I've still seen some kicking around. You can check online too, maybe GameStop online. I've gotten stuff on there before. Sometimes you could get it shipped to stores. You don't have to pay shipping or something like that. While we're on the subject of toys, though, the Bigdawg and I did the San Jose Toy Show this weekend. Selling toys, I was selling some of my art. A good time was had by all. And I did pick up a few toys, one that had to do with Rangers and specifically Go Busters / Beast Morphers. Now, you might remember I previously had Cruise. Now, this is the Hasbro release in America that I was not very happy with. This is technically Cheetah Nick, which is the Go Busters version. He's vinyl. He doesn't transform. He has limited articulation, but I like the way he looks. He stands up nice, and so he's probably going to be replacing him as my main. Even though he's a little bit crisper in detail, he won't stand up. He's got this clunky arm. He can't, even though he's not very posable, his neutral stand looks nice, whereas his neutral stand is very clunky. The only concern is putting him with my other figures. Now, this is an SH Figure Arts Go Bust Red. He's definitely a little bit too tall for that. This is the Hasbro version that we have here. He's a little bit too tall still, but workable. Now, they haven't released the Devin Beast Morphers Lightning Line figure yet. But here is Brennan, or not Brennan, Brennan's the actor. Here's Dino Charge Red, and he is almost the right size. It makes Cheetah Nick / Cruise a hair taller, but I feel like he can hang out with my Lightning Line Beast Morpher Red, and I think that's what I'm going to do. That's going to be where he's going to go. So depending on if you can find him cheap enough, I got him for $5 used. He's a little scuffed up. Online he might be a little bit more, but I think you could probably get him for roughly the same price as this, and if you don't need the transformation into the motorcycle, I think it's a better figure, for display purposes.
My soft goal for myself that I've had is to try to get the rest of the Go Busters figure arts. Whether or not that's going to be a financially acceptable endeavor, we'll see. But definitely next month I'm going to be on the lookout in San Diego for those. Possibly for a good price, possibly for a late tax, as some people have said.
If I saw them cheap, I'd pick them up, but that is not a specific goal of mine because I do have the entire team now just between two different lines, and I could live with that unless I found them for very cheap.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
The Beast Bots, because you only need a 2-pack and the Cheetah Nick by himself, is why I'm a little more tempted by it, but I kick myself multiple times throughout the week whenever I think about it. When it was just clearanced out, and I was like, I don't want it. I don't want it. And now.
Yeah. Well, and that's partially our fault because we didn't watch Go Busters, and then we liked Beast Morphers. Had we watched Go Busters, we would already want them. But, hey, it's in the past. What are you going to do? So
true.
That's toy news. Did you have any other current events in the Power Rangers world, as it were?
Yes. So let's see. For those that are interested in news with Ranger actors, there was a little bit of some smack talk between Mike Olansky, who played or Olasky. I'm forgetting.
I think it's Olasky.
Olasky, who played young Rocky in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3, and Blake Foster, who is the Turbo Blue Ranger. They're supposed to have an MMA fight. I forget when and where, but within the next year or so.
They've been talking about that for a little while now.
They were going a little back and forth lately, and it's one of those things. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt and say it was 100% like to hype up the fight and respectable banter. But every once in a while, it was like teetering on that line of I can't tell if you really don't like each other or you really like each other, which is why you're being so in on.
What did they say? Because I get the impression they get along just fine, and they've been talking about this fight as like a fun thing to do for a while. So what have they said that makes you think different?
So to be fair, I watched Mike Olasky's response to Blake Foster. So he put a clip of something he said and then responded to it. So it is skewed in that sense that I only got it from his perspective. But it was Blake Foster kind of making fun of the weapons work that he does and how that won't help him in the ring, and just kind of poking at the styles he studied. Right. And for those who have followed Mike Olasky, he knows a lot about martial arts and weapon work, so I got a lot of respect for him in that sense. And then Michael Lassie kind of clapped back and was saying like, oh, well, here's how I'm going to beat you, and here's some things that you are good at, that you rely heavily on, that I could easily take out, and like just kind of going more for their style, not like you're really dumb and that's why I'm going to beat you, like nothing like that. Well, more just like styles.
Well, then that lends credibility to they're trying to hype it up because if they're critiquing each other's styles, that's like I'm going to beat you in the ring even though we get along. That makes perfect sense. I think
like I said, I'm leaving it the benefit of the doubt. If for some reason somebody knew more, it's like, oh no, they hate each other now. It's like, okay, news to me.
That would be a bummer. Then the fight wouldn't be as fun. Like they really want to kill each other. Like I don't know if I want to watch that.
Also, for those that have wanted a Rangers perspective of the game, I know Brennan Mejia posted his review of Battle for the Grid recently and him playing around with it a little bit and kind of his take. And it was, I don't want to spoil anything. I highly recommend you go watch it, but it was interesting getting the take of a Ranger actor, especially when they're not in the game currently. He had a good take on his view of the game and the Rangers, especially because he is friends with and knows a lot of the representation of people in the game. Right. Final bit of news I have, the 39th issue of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came out this last Wednesday. I unfortunately haven't read it yet, but what I do know from solicitations is issue 40, which comes out now in June, is the start of a new storyline. They're really hyping it up with the cover art of Mighty Morphin White. I personally don't know how they get there based on the current story, kind of leaving spoilers out. All I know is this is most likely a good jumping on point.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
And depending on how your comic book store orders covers and does request things like that, there's an incentive. I think it's a foil cover. My comic book store, thankfully, is giving it to me a cover. I don't know if others are going to charge more or less in between, not sure. But it's the helmet, Mighty Morphin White, but I think the parts that are gold are going to be foil as opposed to the standard of issue 0, which weren't. So definitely worth picking up if you're a collector of the helmet covers. And
or a good jumping on point. Yeah,
exactly. A little bit of everything.
Or if you're just a White Ranger fan and you just want because it's the White Ranger.
It checks so many boxes. There's almost no reason not to at least try it out.
It's gonna do well, I'm sure.
Oh, I hope so.
Just checking out chat. It looks like basically everyone's still commenting on Lord Zed. It looks like most of the people have managed to get it in our chat, not in the world, and they're all agreeing GameStop is the place to go. So there you go. Yeah. GameStop is the place to go. And I know the Real Babu is in Texas, so that's proof that it's not just California. So let me see. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, just to close off the GameStop part, I think part of the reason that's the best place for those that don't have it to look is because they got it so much later than everyone else did that I think those that were looking outside of there just may have honestly given up. And that's where, if you're a little more diligent and try and kind of ask your GameStop if they could see if other ones in the area may have it or things like that, you may have some better luck. Because I saw firsthand people doing that with other items of, oh, we don't have this, but let me see. Oh, it shows that we have one here and one here. But I recommend calling and seeing. So I had a great experience with a GameStop employee today who recommended that. And it's kind of hit or miss for the area.
I will say, though, that I've had like good luck, and other people saying like customer service, and I've had good customer service from GameStop as well, except when it comes to pre-orders.
Yeah.
And this was another case where I like my local GameStop. They're nice people. They usually recognize me when I go in. They help me look for stuff. Everything he just said, I agree with. But you can't trust. I mean, I say put the pre-orders in, but sometimes it doesn't show up or it shows up later. So like my Zed, I ended up just finding at a GameStop, even though I had pre-ordered mine months ago. And I went in when it was supposed to come out. They didn't have it. They said, oh, it's in the warehouse. We're not sure, blah, 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 blah. And they said, we'll call you. I didn't get a call, bought it, went yesterday to cancel my pre-order. And they said, hey, we have it for you. I said, I never got a call. And they said, oh, well, you were in the other day. I said, yeah. They said, we got it the next day. We called you. I'm like, nobody called me. And just out of curiosity, I looked at my phone. I'm like, what's your phone number? They did call me, but they didn't leave a message. So to me, that's the same as not calling. And so I was talking to a manager, and they were sympathetic, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'll have a talk with them." And it was no problem. Everything was fine.
Yeah.
But if you have a pre-order, and the other thing is they only hold it for so long. So if they call, you don't get the call, and don't go in for a week, you might lose it. So just you got to kind of be on top of them about that stuff. Sometimes that's just and I think that is more for toys than for video games, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed.
In chat, you know what's interesting? I see the new person in chat coming up on the screen, but not in my chat box. So as I said, I'm having issues with chat. The Nova Novel Animal one. Did you see them say something about their experience? I thought I saw them say something, but it's not showing up in my chat box.
I haven't seen either. Right now, I'm seeing Matt Kendall Clare and the Real Babu saying that took a bit of time, but they did end up finding one. I thankfully didn't have to go through that much since going through a lot isn't fun. Well, definitely agree with that, Matt Kendall Clare. I'm actually thrilled with how easy it was to find out which store had it, and they put it on hold for me. That's the Real Babu saying that they were in
North Carolina. I do see that. Okay, so, well, Novel Animal, sorry, I think you said something and maybe we missed it. My chat is acting up, but hopefully what you were saying is I got it too. So let me go back to the Ranger Show shot. And was that it for your news?
That's all I can really think of. The news that I'm waiting for anxiously is what the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive is going to be from Hasbro.
Yeah. Well, we don't know for sure they'll have one, but it would be weird if they didn't.
If they didn't, I think then we would lose a lot of faith in a lot of different areas for Power Rangers.
It's true, because at the very least they could have a recolor or put an accessory on somebody.
Something, yeah. But I don't know.
Well, I have one more piece of news that the people that are in our Facebook group already know, and unfortunately it's another sad piece of news, but let me put up a graphic here and turn this. This actor, you might not recognize their face, is Alistair Browning, and they are most known for doing the voice of Xenowing, the Silver Dino Charge Ranger. Apparently they also have worked, they did Jake on Ninja Storm, who I don't remember. I guess they were just like a background character or something. And then they did a few voices on Dino Thunder and SPD. So they've done a few voices, but Xenowing was the one most people know him for. And apparently they had cancer for a little while and they lost the fight with it. And so they died recently. So, it's one of those things. I think Matt Kendall Clare brought up in the Facebook group. Like, I hate to bring this up, and I feel the same way, especially because we've had a lot of, sad news in the Ranger community lately. But I mean, it is news, and I thought about like if it was me who had died, I would rather people talked about me and remembered me than like don't talk about it because it's sad. So it's sad for their family, their friends, and it's sad that we've lost a talent in the world. But thank you for what you did do, and best of luck in whatever comes next.
Agreed.
Moving on from that, the only other, I don't have any news, but we're going to do a giveaway this week. As I said last week, we were either going to have a guest or a giveaway. We don't have a guest this week, so we're going to do a giveaway. We're not going to, should I just tell you? You want to try to guess? Does anybody want to try to guess?
Can I have some kind of hint? To be fair, I have no idea.
No, he has no idea. I didn't tell him. It's a bittersweet giveaway. It's a bittersweet giveaway.
Oh.
The people, it's not bittersweet is the best way to put it. Both for me giving it away and both for the people who might get it.
Is it really large in stature?
No, it's on my desk right now.
Oh, I see. I'm gonna go with you getting rid of. I keep wanting to say Cheetah Nick, and that's not the right name.
The Real Babu guessed your artwork. No, although I probably should do an artwork giveaway at some point. I like that my artwork would be bittersweet. Here's my art. Thanks.
Unintentional troll.
Jake was Dustin's dad in Ninja Storm. Oh, okay, that's cool. So they actually got to be a face actor. Novel Animal, I see. I would get it, but I'm not much of a figure person. Fair enough. Hey, you're just saving yourself money. You're
Yeah.
and let's see. So no, you are right. I am going to give away my Cruise figure. Since I just upgraded to Cheetah Nick, and I probably won't be using this on the shelf, it was just going to sit around. And while I don't think it's a perfect figure, if you don't have any, it's better than none, and I'd rather somebody enjoy it than it be wasted sitting on my shelf. Now, here's the caveat. It has been opened, obviously. I have the box, but it's kind of messed up, so I'm probably not going to send you the box, just the figure. And this is where I get selfish, and I apologize. He comes with this little key. I'm keeping the key. Because I have the Morpher, I want the key, so that's why it's bittersweet. So if you need a Cruise and you weren't going to buy one, you get a free Cruise. But he doesn't get the key, and he's, in my opinion, not the best Cruise, but for free, hey. So we'll do the same thing. Don't say if you want it on the live chat. We did that last time, and it worked out, but I realized I had to pull from a few different places. So if you want it, mention it in the chat on YouTube. Even if you're here live, when it goes up tomorrow on the YouTube, that's the place to do it. If you want to share it around, I mean, that hurts your chances, but I'd appreciate it. But yeah, it's basically just you put your name in the comments on the YouTube channel, and if you win, you get now I want to say Cheetah Nick. You get the Cruise figure. I will send it to you. I will cover the postage. And I sent out the other ones, and I'm pretty quick about it. Usually probably get it within a week or so. So that is the big contest for this time. Now, before we move on, I realize the other news kind of is the interview that we are going to have next week. The interview is going to be with a gentleman named Matt Palmer, who is one of the creators of the Immortal Red Fox. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Immortal Red Fox is an American manga and miniseries tokusatsu on YouTube. I met him at Power Morphine Express this year, and actually, I'll show you. I like to have people do intro for Action Activate. Like, I've been slowly rolling that out. We had a new one this week, and it was at that show that I got the idea to have people start doing that. I thought I had him do one, and I can't find it. But what I can find is this. So unfortunately, Big Dog, you won't be able to hear it.
I'll hear it on the YouTube.
Okay, that's what we had today. And then this is the one that I wanted to use for him. As you can tell, it's not correct. Basically, I did one of those things where I was like, okay, let's move over here, and then I don't know what happened. So if I could find the correct one, that'll be opening the show next week. Otherwise, that's it. But he's a nice guy. They have an English manga that's available on Amazon and a few other places. And all these links are going to be up next time. Maybe I'll put a link up in the Facebook group, and I'll put a link below so people can check out who he is and his work before he comes on next week. But we'll do the live show. But it's not going to be on Monday because he works certain hours. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do it on Sunday. It'll still be at 5 o'clock California, U.S. time. So it'll be the same time, but a day earlier. And if you do check his stuff out and you have any questions you want us to ask him or any comments, whatever you'd want to say, you could show up live, of course, but if you don't think you're going to make it live, let us know and we'll pass it on. And we're going to spend most of the hour talking with him about his creation, maybe his take on Power Rangers, obviously. But the whole idea is what he's doing is sort of an American Sentai manga with some YouTube stuff as well that is going to be a miniseries, and the character is the Immortal Red Fox. And it kind of is a little bit comedic. It kind of has, if anybody knows what a Kiba Ranger, it has a little bit of vibe of that. So I think it's going to be a fun show, and it'll be fun to actually have another guest on the show for an interview that we haven't done before. Like I said, we want to do a few more of those in the coming weeks since we're on hiatus from Beast Morphers. And let me see. As far as my chat thing is, I don't think there's anything new unless I've missed it, which is possible.
Speaking of missing, Dolly Girl said she unfortunately missed last week, and then the Real Babu had guessed your artwork before, but we're pretty caught up. One thing in regards to, it's not really news, but I guess an update is the chart that we talked about last week.
Yes.
Did you want to talk about that?
I do, yes. So for those that missed it, like Dolly Girl, what we were working on last week, and let me pull that up. I'm going to give you a one shot. Actually, there's a one shot of you drinking.
There we go. Perfect.
Usually
Stay hydrated, my friend.
Usually when I have to pull up new graphics, I throw it to you because I'm not looking at the camera.
Yeah.
So you're like, let's get a new graphic, and then I'll take a drink. So explain what it is as I pull it up.
So post hydration. Last week, what we did was an alignment chart. This is very popular in RPG games, specifically Dungeons and Dragons. I think was one of the ones that either originated it and/or propelled it to kind of popularity. And what it does is break down where someone falls within a law and order sense of where they go. It goes from good, neutral to evil, and then the same thing, but for how they abide by the law. So chaotic, lawful, chaotic neutral, or sorry, lawful neutral, and then
Here it is. I got the graphic up.
I'm all over the place. Sorry,
That's right.
With how I'm describing it. There we go. Now we can see it: lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good, and then lawful evil, neutral evil, and chaotic evil. Things like that. And what we did is when talking about this separately, noticed that there wasn't one for Power Rangers. So what we decided to do is, with the help of the chat and YouTube and kind of the Action Activate community, we wanted to see who we felt was a good representation of each of the 9 squares on this grid. Exactly. And we talked about it last week, both live and a little bit after, about who we felt, and this was the beta of it. And for the most part, a majority of them have stuck, but there are a few that were kind of upper contention and had a few other names thrown into the hat after the fact that we wanted to discuss now, kind of see people's takes in the chat and then discuss with each other, which we haven't done outside of right now.
Right. And Matt Kendall Clare enjoyed your hydrating in the one shot, and Babu loves the pick in the middle, which they donated because we originally it was Finster, and then it was discussed that that whole little crew is probably neutral, and the real Babu is the real Babu, and donated a picture we could use that had all 3 of them. So I also changed the Justin for neutral good. That's actually a cosplayer, but it was better than any picture I could find online.
Oh, wow.
And since
that's awesome.
Yeah, and since we're not saying it's Blake Foster, we're saying it's Turbo Blue, so, you know, and then I changed Chaotic Good, not the character, but the idea was that it was Astronema turned into Galaxy Pink, and the picture I had, I think, was a little misleading. I showed it to a few people, and they thought maybe it was Cat or some other character, so I felt like maybe that was better to show it that way. Now, the ones that are highlighted in red are the 3 that people had differing opinions on. So all the ones that are not red are locked in. I may or may not find a better image, but those characters are locked in. And so I figure we'll start with lawful neutral. And again, in chat, feel free to jump in. I'm going to reread the definition of lawful neutral. And honestly, these are the ones I think I always have trouble with in Dungeons & Dragons or any other thing, because they're always a little bit weird. Like, good and evil are kind of easy, and it's those weird middle ground ones that are kind of fuzzy to define. So the way we're going is with the classic D&D definition. Here, I'm going to give myself a one shot. So lawful neutral, which is what we're looking at. Right now we have Jen Scotts from Time Force Pink. Lawful neutral character typically believes strongly in lawful concepts such as honor, order, rules, and tradition, but often follows a personal code in addition to or even in preference to one set down by a benevolent authority. Examples of lawful neutral characters include a soldier who always follows orders, a judge or an enforcer who adheres mercilessly to the letter of the law, and a disciplined monk. So that's why initially we went with Jen Scotts, because she follows the codes of Time Force. She's a law enforcement officer. I think the dissenting opinions are that she breaks the rules from time to time, and she does. But I feel like she normally is a rule follower. These are the exceptions to the rule, and everybody has exceptions. Evil character might do something good and vice versa throughout the course of a life or in extreme circumstances. Things like that could happen. I will say some of the ideas that were floated for lawful neutral, not by you or I, but on various social media. Korag from Mystic Force, who I haven't seen Mystic Force, so I have no opinion on that. Goldar from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which I understand because he follows sort of Rita's law, but even there, he defies Rita and Zed sometimes if he feels it's for the mission, and
he'll be kind of sneaky.
And I don't know. I feel like lawful neutral is still too good for Goldar. I don't see him like he's kind of honorable, but I understand it, but I don't quite agree with it. And then Zeltrax from Dino Thunder. Don't know who that is, unfortunately. For those that are new to the show, Bigdawg has seen, I think, every season but one. Is that right?
I haven't finished Samurai. I haven't finished Operation Overdrive. And Megaforce and Super Megaforce, I'm familiar with. I refuse to watch it in its entirety as of this moment. Doesn't mean ever, but I get the gist of the story.
Okay, and I have a worse gap because I've seen I haven't finished Overdrive, and I just started Dino Thunder, and I've seen none of Mystic Force and none of SPD. And for whatever reason, maybe because they're good seasons, they seem to
Yeah.
be coming up a lot. And I'm like, man, I've watched hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes of Power Rangers and seen all the movies and read the comics. I know
Hmm.
90% of everything. And everyone's like, well, let's talk about the 10% you don't know. And I appreciate the
Yeah.
passion, and I'm not disagreeing it, but I can't have an opinion on it, unfortunately, because I have my ignorance. So again, Zeltrax, I don't know who that is. I don't know anything about them.
Hmm.
And then the other one, again, this is all for Lawful Neutral, would be Magna Defender from Lost Galaxy. So he's the only one I actually can have opinion on because I have seen Lost Galaxy and I know him. Um,
Hmm.
I don't necessarily agree with that though, because he's out for revenge or he's out for a greater mission that he can't be bothered with the Rangers and they're in his way. But I don't think he's particularly worried about law of any kind.
Yeah.
So it kind of the opposite of Goldar, where I think it puts Goldar too high. I think it puts Magna Defender a little bit too no, also too high. Yeah, also too high. Because while he's a good
Yeah.
character at the end of the day, he doesn't care about law at all.
Yeah, he has his own goals, and if they align with making sure that Terra Venture doesn't, plummet into nothingness, then he'll kind of help out there. But at least in the beginning, for sure, he was about making sure that he had his revenge fulfilled and
Right.
not necessarily always helping the Rangers or always hurting the bad guys.
And as you had said, and again, spoilers if you haven't seen it, don't listen. But when he merges with Mike, that seems to kind of mellow. Like they kind of become a better person. And is
Hmm.
that because of Mike, or was it just bringing out was good Magna Defender? It's kind of hard to tell,
A little bit of
that way.
both kind of thing, yeah.
Check in chat. Babu, the real Babu said, after some thought, the reason Babu and Squad are neutral, in my opinion, is because they seem to emotionally be like 6 to 8 year olds. That's a really good point. So really unable to really comprehend good versus evil and lawful versus chaotic, whereas Finster seems more capable of understanding the difference, but still falls in between good, evil, and lawful, chaotic. So
Mm.
I agree with that. Finster definitely seems to be more intellectually or emotionally, mature than they are.
Hmm.
You're right. They do seem very childish. Not that they don't have the intellect. Well, Squat does actually almost seem to have the intellect of a child, whereas Babu seems smarter, but just doesn't. So for different reasons, I still think they all fall in the neutral, and I think that's what you're saying as well.
Yeah.
Um, Matt Kendall Clare, without spoiling anything, I usually don't agree. I actually don't agree with Zeltrax. Well,
I don't think Zeltrax is neutral due
okay.
to their alignment. Zeltrax is a villain.
Okay, well, I don't know the character, and we have my co-host and one of our regular viewers disagreeing, so I'm going to just cross him off.
Yeah.
So the question then is, for lawful neutral, we have Jen Scott's. The proposed other ones are Korag, Goldar, and Magna Defender. I
Hmm.
disagree with Magna Defender. Do you also disagree with Magna
I
Defender?
disagree, and the main reason is because not that I don't think Magna Defender could have a place on this,
Hmm.
but when it comes to lawful neutral, the reason I think, and obviously I'm biased because I picked Jen, but the reason I think Jen is the best part is the law that she is abiding by is making sure that time is safe. And whether or not that's following the strict rules of Time Force
Hmm.
or the rules of time according to her and her beliefs and understanding, I think that the easiest way to equate it is like a gray Jedi for the Star Wars fans.
Right.
They go with the Force. They don't go with the Jedi or the Sith. They go with the Force,
I
and that's what's dictating
I
her
agree, and
goals.
actually, since I just reread this, I'm going to read this part again because I think it reinforces what you just said.
Hmm.
Lawful. Oops, that's lawful evil. Hold on. Sorry. Lawful neutral. A lawful neutral character typically believes strongly law, blah, blah, blah. But often follows a personal code in addition to or even in preference to one set down by a benevolent authority. So that
Hmm.
doesn't mean that you say, oh, well, I think killing is fine and that's the code I follow and whatever, like that's a little bit too
Yeah.
much. But if she follows the law to protect time. And it's kind of like Captain America who protects America. He doesn't protect the American government or the system of democracy or the system.
Hmm.
Like he does protect the system, but like the people, the idea, the
Yeah.
spirit of America, what it's supposed to be. That's what he's fighting for, not one
Yeah.
particular law, one particular politician. And so Jen Scott is like that with Time Force. She follows the law of Time Force and her bosses, but at the end of
Hmm.
the day, she wants to protect time and
Yeah.
she leaves like there's an argument that maybe she wanted to stay behind or bring someone with her or the way that ended, but she did the right thing for time. So I think
Yeah.
that the way she breaks the rule kind of fits within the definition of that alignment. um
Agree.
so we're definitely not doing Magna Defender, and I have no opinion on Korag. You're saying no to Korag.
Um, I'm going to be honest. I'm a little fuzzy from watching Mystic Force,
Okay.
but I feel like because of the initial arc of Korag, avoiding spoilers for you, I I don't think it's lawful neutral. I
Okay.
mean, maybe if you want to go with chaotic neutral,
That's not what we're talking about yet. We'll
I
talk about
know,
that
but that's
next.
what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like,
All right.
if somebody wanted to make an argument there,
Okay.
I'd have a little more leniency. But lawful neutral is Jen, and
All
I
right.
think nobody comes close to beating her in this.
Okay. And then Goldar was the other one, which I disagree with, and so do you. So we have taken into consideration what everyone has said, but we,
Mm-hmm.
barring any last-minute amazing arguments, we're going to stick with Jen for lawful neutral.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on, chaotic neutral, we had Jared from Jungle Fury,
Mm-hmm.
and let me refresh what chaotic neutral is for those that need it. Chaotic neutral. A chaotic neutral is an individual who follows their own heart and generally shirks rules and traditions. Although chaotic neutral characters promote the ideals of freedom, it is their own freedom that comes first. Good and evil come second to their need to be free. So it's very much an individualist at the cost of others if need be. Don't care how they do it. Very basically sounds like a very selfish character without regard to
Mm-hmm.
consequence, which I do still think Jared fits. Throughout the course of the arc, you could argue things change or whatever, but for most of the time. The proposed changes would be, where is it? What are we doing? Chaotic neutral. Okay. Well, Magna Defender is recommended,
Yep.
mainly because of revenge.
Yep.
And the other one is Decker from Samurai, which I know actually you're a little weakened, but I think you know the character.
I do.
And similarly, because he is selfish and he basically just follows his curse. I think the person said he wanted to get rid of the curse. I mean, I watched that whole season. I don't remember it that I remember that he didn't even think he could get rid of it. He just had to fight. He had to follow the sword. He didn't,
Yeah.
again, we're getting into spoiler territory, but like there were personal things from his previous life that you thought might matter to him that didn't. Like, and he didn't seem to care about the Rangers or the bad guys, or he just sort of was on his own thing, kind of like Magna Defender was with the Rangers. But I would argue that out of the two of those, Decker is actually the better representation because Magna Defender was selfish but could be shown to care about other people because at heart he was good. He was just sort of pushed to the edge. And so he would say, okay, I'll help you save this or I'll do this. Like he would care about things, maybe not as much as he's supposed to. And maybe he'd do it in the wrong way, but he did kind of have cares outside of himself. And again, there's a bit of a redemption arc there. Whereas I think
Yeah.
Decker he's not even out for revenge. It's just selfish
Yeah.
fulfillment. And so even though I was totally on board with Jared, I would be fine changing it to Decker, and I almost think Decker might be better. So I mean, we'll see what chat says if anything. Let's see. Real Babu says chaotic neutral. The end justifies the means, which again could be Magna Defender, could be
Yeah.
Jared. I guess. Yeah.
Between the two, if we were to switch it, I would lean more toward Magna Defender. I know
Mhm.
more about it and the amount that I know versus Decker. I think because of the heavy revenge subplot
Mhm.
that we initially had with Magna Defender, specifically pre kind of coexistence with Mike,
Right.
that's why I would lean toward. Just because, as you said, I think Decker does really want to just constantly combat people, and that in itself I don't think is a strong enough goal versus Magna Defenders of I need revenge for why I was wronged. And I don't care about good, I don't care about evil, I care about this. Whereas Decker, in a sense, I feel like has some points that they touch upon with that, but Magna Defender has so much more strong chaotic aspects of that, whereas Decker's like, I want to sword fight people.
All right. Let me
Magna
ask.
Defender's like, I'm gonna do whatever it
Right.
takes to feel like I am right.
Let me ask you this then. Um, do you like Magna Defender as a pick better than Jared?
I think Jared could fall more into traditional evil of trying to rule, and because of actually, yes, I do. And the thing that I forgot of until right now
Right.
is his affinity for not
Camille.
Camilla,
Oh,
Camille. Thank
yeah,
you.
Camille.
Even with Daishi, he had a huge affinity to
Yeah.
her, in which I think is a
Okay.
weakness enough where
Let's
Magna Defender takes cake.
okay. Let's agree on this. It's not going to be Jared. We're changing it.
Yep.
It's either going to be Magna Defender or Decker. We agree
Yep.
to that?
Yep,
Okay.
I vote Magna Defender.
Well, no, but I'm
you
saying,
vote
but
Decker.
we both agree that both of those are better than Jared.
Yep.
Okay, so that we got that far. In chat, Novel Animal says, I think Decker is the best choice because of his motives. So now I think what we've come down to is what what is chaotic neutral? Because one is, well, I'm single-minded and selfish, and I'm following this no matter what I have to do and whatever. And the other is like, I'm so single-minded and selfish, because the motive for Decker is just I don't care about anything or anyone, and I'm just gonna have a fight and follow this rage and my sword and in my heart, and that is it. There's nothing else. Whereas both Jared and Magna Defender are very selfish about what they want, but they do care about the world around them to some extent, and they have some feelings for some people a little bit, and they have some awareness outside of themselves. Whereas Decker is just like me and Urumasa, my sword, Urumasa. That's all he cares about. So the question becomes, which of those better represents chaotic neutral? And you're saying you think it's Magna Defender. I kind of thought it was more Decker. Novel Animals saying Decker. But there were people who maybe aren't in chat right now on the social media who agreed with you about Magna Defender. So we're kind of like, we need something to break the tie.
Yeah.
Matt Kendall Clare, me and my voices. Yeah, I like the character Decker. Well, I've said before, I like Samurai. I know it's not everybody's favorite, but I have a soft spot for Samurai, and I like Decker as a character. I thought he was a fun character. Let me read chaotic neutral again. A chaotic neutral character is an individualist who follows their own heart and generally shirks rules and traditions. That definitely applies to Decker, and it pretty much applies to Magna Defender as well.
Yep.
Okay, so we're fine there. Although chaotic neutral characters promote the ideals of freedom, which I don't think either of these characters particularly do, it is their own freedom that comes first, which again, both of them have proven. Magna Defender went against the Rangers, Decker went against his evil masters. Good and evil come second to their need to be free. Decker will do whatever it takes to get to that next fight and feed his hunger. Magna Defender will do whatever it takes to get to his revenge or whatever. So again, very similar. To me, I'm gonna stick with Decker, not to be difficult and obstinate, and I'm trying to not spoil it too much. I know you might not care, but other people might. But the only way I could say it is that I think Decker is more one note and stays chaotic neutral more or less the whole time. Whereas Magna Defender is a more nuanced character that has different aspects, and there's more character growth.
So what I will say,
yes,
it seems like we're picking Decker based on chat,
which
is fine. But I think the argument I would make, and once again, this is Magna Defender without kind of the full coexistence with Mike, is that Decker's goal is to have the next fight. Maybe a subtle goal that he doesn't want to realize is my freedom from my path is for someone to best me and then my journey is over. Whereas Magna Defender's is, I need to right the wrongs of my family and then I am free. His is a lot more of a kind of drawn out goal. Like you can see it very clearly, whereas Decker's, I think, is a little more muddied and less clear until you get later on in the season.
I don't think there's anything muddy or unclear about Decker's goal. I think I think it's more straightforward. Yeah, well, they both want
but he's never going to be free, and Magna Defender's goal is for him to be free of said thing.
I think that's splitting hairs a little bit, because I think like that you're sort of saying when we as an audience determine that, but they both have a similar goal at the end. Real Babu is leaning towards Decker. Novel Animal, I think Magna swings more good than neutral compared to Decker. I definitely agree with that. Because even at his worst, it's like Magna Defender at his worst is like Decker at his best. You know what I mean? Like they kind of meet in the middle. I also kind of feel like, well, I also just want to say from a sentimental fanboy point of view, as like what are Power Rangers supposed to be? And Magna Defender is not an official Power Ranger, but he's a Power Ranger. He's a Six Ranger. He's an ally, you know. I feel like anything after neutral, I'm reluctant to want it to be a Ranger or a Ranger ally. So despite all the logical arguments, I feel like it kind of has to be a bad guy.
That's fair.
All right, so you could agree that even though it's not your pick, we'll go ahead and put Decker.
I can agree that everyone has made points where Decker would edge out Magna Defender.
Okay, fair enough. I will change that. Hey, you don't have the descriptions up anymore, do you, to the different alignments?
I can, yes.
Okay, if you could read Lawful Evil, I'll go ahead and grab a Decker picture to put in there.
Yeah, let me catch up. Novel Animal said Decker's goal is about the fight for what the fight could be. for his freedom because he needed to lose a battle when he would be free from his curse. Okay,
Right.
that's fair.
And that is similar to Magna Defender, but again, oh, I put a one shot on me instead of you. There you go.
And we're on lawful evil, correct?
We are, yeah, about to start Lawful Evil.
Okay, so the definition of lawful evil. A lawful evil character sees a well-ordered system as being easier to exploit and shows a combination of desirable and undesirable traits. Examples of this alignment include tyrants, devils, corrupt officials, and undiscriminating mercenary types who have a strict code of conduct.
Okay. What we have now, I think we started with Goldar, and then we got Master Vile. And I do think Master Vile is a good choice. But there was some dissenting opinions, so let me pull them up. Where to put it? Okay.
Real Babu says, is anybody else seeing some streaming problems?
Uh-oh.
What kind of problems?
Do you have Twitch open on your laptop there, Bigdawg?
I do. I haven't seen anything.
Okay. I mean, from my end, I can't watch the stream because I'm doing all like the back end stuff, but everything looks fine for me.
Yeah, same.
Novel Animal says no. So, Real Babu, I'm sorry you're having trouble, but I think that's your computer connection maybe.
Possibly, yeah.
All right, so I got that.
You were saying Goldar
Lawful Evil.
Master Vile.
Yeah, we started with Goldar. We talked about a bunch of people, but Goldar was the one that we first landed on. Then Master Vile, who was Zed and Rita's boss. For those that forget, I couldn't remember the name off the top of my head originally.
And Rita's dad.
And Rita's dad. Oh, I said boss, but yeah, dad. Yeah, no streaming issues. It's just the Real Babu, unfortunately. Well, fortunate that it's only him. Unfortunate that it's anybody. Lawful Evil. So Lawful Evil, the ones that were suggested were somebody. I think it was Matt said Mystic Force villain, which I'm wondering if that was Korag, and they were trying to be nice and not spoil. But
that's fair.
If it was Korag, please let us know, Matt. Then also suggested. A lot of these were suggested by Simon, who I think mostly watches on the YouTube channel. Anton Mercer from Dino Thunder, which again, I unfortunately now know that he is. This is spoilers again for people who haven't seen, so turn your ears away. Anton Mercer / Mesagog. So I know that, but I don't know anything about the character because I haven't seen him in the show. So, and the other one is Wes's father from Time Force, because he's sort of a jerk businessman, kind of like using things to his advantage, even though he's not breaking the law. Which I could kind of see in the beginning, and they even said in the beginning, but it's another one of those characters where over time I don't think that was true towards the end necessarily. Let me see. Those are the only three that were those. Yeah, Anton Mercer, Wes's father. What's Wes's last name again? Well, whatever that is. And then unnamed Mystic Force villain. Matt Kendall Clare says it wasn't Korag.
If you could put the name of it, it will mean nothing to Gaz.
That's true.
I may know.
Yeah, I won't. The name won't mean unless the name is like a big spoiler. Like I don't know how that could.
I don't think it is.
Okay. I will say. Sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead. You go.
Okay. One person I thought of when we were going through the definition again, but I'm totally gonna forget his name. It was the prince who was in Zeo, the oldest brother.
Oh, that came back like halfway through the season?
Yes.
I don't remember his name either.
That would be a good one because obviously he is evil, but when it talks about exploiting the system, the reason he went in for power in the middle was because of some turmoil within the Machine Empire, Rita and Zed kind of being a thorn in King Mondo's side, and obviously the Rangers as well, and then tried to use that as his opening while still being evil.
That's not terrible, but why him over King Mondo, who is already the lawful ruler who is evil and just trying to take everything over and running his empire? Like he's already in the position.
Because I don't see him trying to exploit anything. He is just going through a, for lack of a better term, traditional conquering method.
One would argue that is exploiting, though. It's just exploiting his own people to be soldiers to then exploit the earth. And here's the other thing. And it's been a little while since I watched Zeo, but the prince who comes back. And we're not talking about Sprocket. We're talking about the kind of more good-looking, cool
brother,
prince. Yeah. Aren't his parents mad at him because he's kind of off doing his own thing, and he's has some partner that they don't approve of, and so isn't he kind of breaking the rules of tradition and whatever their law is by doing it the way he's doing it?
In a sense, but he's still going about working with his family until he gets what he wants.
I mean, this might, again, come down to what we think the definition of, but I feel like King Mondo is a better version than him because I feel like King Mondo is like the exactly what lawful evil means, whereas he's someone who might get to eventually be lawful evil.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Somebody said something in chat. Matt Kendall, if you were asking about Wes's last name, it's Collins. Thank you. So Mr.
Yes,
Collins was Wes Collins,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Collins. Okay, let me read. And then Prince Gasket isn't a bad idea. Wait,
Yeah,
Gasket was his name? I thought
I believe
Gasket was
so.
the little kid. Who was the little kid? Cog? Well, anyway.
Yeah, Gaz does have a point there about Gasket.
Okay, so I
Okay.
guess Gasket. So, it's not a bad, yeah. But I would go with Mondo over Gasket then, because that's kind of
Okay.
like, yeah, well, whatever. But going back to the suggestions, I can't have an opinion on Anton Mercer. Do you think that fits it?
No, because once again, not really. The only thing that would be exploited would be Anton Mercer himself,
Hmm.
and I can't go with that one
Okay.
personally.
All right. Well.
Sprocket is the little brother. Gasket is the older
Oh,
brother.
okay. Gotcha. They're so similar. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Um.
yeah.
Oh, what I was gonna say is with Mr. Collins, I feel like he is not really doing anything evil because he starts the Silver Guardians to try to take out mutants that just kind of butt heads with Time Force, but their goal is still similar in nature. They just
Hmm.
don't do it very, I guess, approved by Time Force's methods, but
Right.
I don't really see them as evil in any way, especially him.
I don't either, especially having watched plenty of media and even real life where you see corporate politicians and businessmen where like they're not breaking the law, but they clearly are doing things for bad reasons. And
Yeah.
you might disagree with the way he does it, but he does seem to want to do the right thing. And so yeah, I agree. I can't have an opinion on Tim Mercer, but I'm gonna also veto Wes's father.
Yeah.
Uh, um,
Novel Animal said Mesogog is a lawful evil villain, according to them.
you disagree?
I I don't want to say I strongly disagree because I'm a little bit fuzzier on Dino Thunder. It's been a while,
Hmm.
um, but I
Well, I guess the
I
question
don't
is Mesogog more of a lawful evil villain than Master Vile? Because they have to
I don't
whoever it
think
is.
so. I think King Mondo and Master Vile are more lawful evil than Mesogog,
Okay,
personally.
because that's the real question. This is also for chat. Like, it's not a
Hmm.
matter of are you wrong, but is it a good enough answer to unseat the
Yeah.
current champion?
Hmm.
Um, okay, I'm gonna cross off Mystic Force villain that wasn't Korag. So the other one I thought of, and I don't know why I did, because I'm happy with Master Vile, but I was just thinking if we needed another one, and I think Master Vile is better, but I'll just say it for the sake of saying it. Believe it or not, from Ninja Steel, Galvanax, because
Okay.
Galvanax has this, weird like game show thing where they
Hmm.
fight in battle, and whatever, like, however evil they are, and they want to take over Earth, and they're fighting the Rangers and stuff. It's all predicated on like this is a game show. We have to entertain the masses, and this is what we do, and we have to win before we can take the planet. So there's this weird rule set kind of governing everything they do because they never just says, well, I'm going to go down there and bring everybody and take over the world. I have this whole weird game show system that I have to follow. So I
Yeah.
thought of that as sort of being oddly lawful evil, that they had to follow these rules. But that being said, I thought this before I kind of reminded myself that we have a kind of a better version already in Master Vile or King Mondo.
Yep.
A matter of fact, I would say if we were going to change it, I would say to change it to King Mondo only because, and maybe this is just me, King Mondo is a more memorable villain than Master Vile.
True.
I don't know if that's just me, but because he was the villain for the entire season, whereas Master File kind of came in towards the end of
That's like
season
20
three, or
episodes
yeah,
ish.
yeah. But that would not be a change because I think one is better, but just like, oh, people know this character better.
Hmm.
Let me check.
Catching
Down,
up on chat. Are you
yeah.
saying Mercer? I'm listening to an audiobook where the main character has the same name. I keep thinking of the book. Ha ha ha. Oh, of the last name. Got it.
Yeah, Mercer is a
Um,
character from Dino Thunder.
And then Novel Animal. I think he is more lawful evil than King Mondo. Very true about King Mondo, says Matt Kendall. Um, for Novel Animal's comment, I think, like I said, Gaz has not gone through Dino Thunder. I am
Right.
fuzzy. I'm not going to argue and say that they wouldn't be lawful evil from my stance on the villains that I feel are lawful evil. I feel like King Mondo, because of the hierarchy, because of the establishment that he both built and is following a certain set of rules by, I think that is more lawful evil than Mesogog, who, without going into it too much, has a very different, less transparent, I would say in some cases, rhetoric.
I'm gonna say this, and you can feel free to argue with me on this, Big Dog. But I think the way to put this issue to rest, because we're almost done. This once we agree on this, we'll be done. I don't. Again, I can't really have an opinion on Mesagog, but what I'll
Mhm.
say is, let's assume that Novel Animal is correct and they are just as good or potentially better or whatever. Similar to what I was saying about um, maybe switching to King Mondo over Master Vile, even if
Mhm.
they're roughly equally good representations. I'm going to say we go with King Mondo over Mesagog because King Mondo is a better representation that more people will know. So even if Mesagog is just as good or a hair better of a representation, we could all agree that Mondo is a good representation that the most amount of fans would recognize. Does that seem
I,
fair?
what I will say, I think people who went past Mighty Morphin, that is a strong statement. But as we've learned recently, there are a lot more fans than you or I were aware of the
Sure.
Disney era. So it could be
Right.
argued actually that current fans and people watching Power Rangers that went beyond Mighty Morphin may know the Disney era a lot better than the Zordon era,
Right.
whereas we kind of went there. We got lost a little bit during
Hmm.
Disney era and then picked back up during Nickelodeon. So I think it's fair to say that both, depending on who's looking, are a fair representation of a villain they would recognize.
Well,
I
see,
still
so
agree
you
with
muddied
King
the water
Mondo.
then. Wait, hold on. In chat, uh, Matt Kendall Clare said very true about King Mondo. And then Real Babu, as the one who suggested Vile, I agree Mondo is more memorable, so I approve the change. Uh, I think Novel Animal is the only one that is really pulling hard for Mesagog, and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I haven't seen it enough to make a good argument either way, and Big
Mm-hmm.
Dog is a little fuzzy on it. So, Novel Animal, I do apologize if you are like in the right and like, you know, but based on the information we have and kind of the group consensus, I think we're going to go with King Mondo.
Yeah.
Um, so,
I
so
think
we
one thing
you
though,
are heard. Yeah, go ahead.
as a silver lining, um, as Gaz gets through Dino Thunder, and I can go back and watch a little bit more, and it's something we could touch upon later. Whether or not it changes the full picture, I don't want to say it will, but it's something we can definitely touch upon and go back to in a future episode once Gaz and I have a more fresh understanding of Mondo versus Mesagog.
Right. And I'm looking for a picture of King Mondo right now. Um, we had talked about some other things we might do, but I realize we're already at almost an hour, so maybe
Yeah,
we don't have to end right this second, but maybe not start another big thing just yet.
yeah.
I don't know why, but I'm finding kind of fuzzy pictures of King Mondo. Let me check my notes real quick to see if there's anything else we wanted to talk about that wasn't a big
Mm-hmm.
thing. Um, okay, here's a small topic. Well, it could be a big topic, but I don't want it to be. Uh, we saw Godzilla this weekend, you and I.
Yes.
And if anybody out there hasn't seen it, I do recommend it. If you like Godzilla, it's a great Godzilla movie.
Yep.
But I feel like most Power Ranger fans, it's got enough crossover. It doesn't have the Power Ranger on the ground action, but it has the big
Mm-hmm.
giant things fighting action. So
Mm-hmm.
I recommend it just as like a fun movie in that sort of topic. But it also got me thinking about the Power Rangers movie we got a couple years ago that most people found a little disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
And the first American Godzilla movie also was a little disappointing. This one I think wasn't disappointing. And this, as I'm saying this might be too big a topic, but I was thinking like, assuming they do the sequel that they're supposed to, or another reboot of Power Rangers, and they'll probably go with Mighty Morphin again because that's the way it goes. What lessons could they have learned from the new Godzilla movie? And not spoiling the new Godzilla movie because it just came out, but like I'm just thinking like what flavors of Power Rangers did they miss that they could put in? And maybe we could talk about that just a little bit before we end
Yeah.
here.
Is it okay if I start while you're
Yeah,
looking for the
please.
image?
That's exactly what I want to do.
Okay. I think with Godzilla specifically, taking a look at it, the reason, and this is obviously a lot of bias for myself and Gaz, and if anybody wants to chime in, please feel free in the comments. Um, but the problem with the first Godzilla movie, the American Godzilla movie, is that it spent a lot of time on character development. Now, those characters were cool. We learned a lot about them. But what did we go see? Godzilla.
Hmm.
We didn't get a majority of the film dedicated around Godzilla, just a lot of kind of preemptive work before we finally saw him. And that kind of goes to the new movie, staying spoiler free. Godzilla is a very big part of it. It's not really a spoiler, it's more of an incentive of you're getting what you pay for. that's part of the reason it was so good, is it touches upon why those who like Godzilla in the first place go. You see Godzilla, you see all these different monsters, you see this mythos and this lore get explored. Now, turning that to the Power Rangers reboot, one thing they did is they attacked it on similar fronts, but didn't have the execution I think that they were going for. They didn't spend an incredible amount of time on the Zord fight at the end. They spent enough, but they went for such a stylized new rebooty look that I think they started to lose sight of what we went there for. We like some of the cheesiness. We like some of, the classic designs. Perfect example with the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie. A lot of those designs were very liberal in the sense of them making it their own take. People did not like it at all. So much so
Right.
that the director came out and said, I heard you, we're going to change it. I think, and the way I took it being optimistic is they've seen so many other projects fail due to this criticism and just staying stubborn and going with it, that they want to do the best they can to make sure that doesn't happen to Sonic. And that's why they're taking this change. Now with Power Rangers, I think when we get a new movie, if they don't get ahead of themselves and think that people don't want to see a classic look, that's what's going to drive us. If I think, and this has happened with so many other properties, a design will come out that's very new, and someone
Right.
online with a lot of effort but a lot less budget come
Right.
out with something leaps and bounds better. I think you got to take a look at yourself and say, are you putting your money in the right place when it comes to giving something the fans want to see and selfishly is going to make you the most money?
Absolutely. You took a lot of what I would have said.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
And especially the point about the fan art, for lack of a better term, sort of being better than the official art, and usually because the people who do the fan art are literally fans. Sometimes you just get an artist that feels like taking a stab at it, but someone who's watched the shows, who cares about it, and says like, what would I want to see? And they take the source material and put their fun, like modern spin on it, as opposed to let's reinvent it from the ground up. And it kind of makes me think of the original Ranger movies, that was, still the original cast and stuff. They changed the suits. They weren't just spandex. They were sort of more armored and stuff. But the helmets were basically the same. Now, that's still a little cheesy by today's standards. But if you kind of took the basic design, I feel like what they did is they said, it's almost like they described what the Power Rangers are to someone who's never seen it. And this is what they came up with, which I don't think, again, is the right way to go. What you should do is take the design, look at it, and I mean, I'm an artist. I would redraw it 15 times, and how can I make it better? How can I make it better? But I would always go back to that original. Like, it has to still feel like this. It's kind of like Star Trek: The Next Generation to Star Trek. Very, very different. Better effects, different stories, everything more modern characters, and of course now that's old too. Now we're on Discovery or whatever else. But there's always like the little insignia. There's always tricorders. There's always kind of monochromatic suits to a certain extent. There's a chain of command. There's certain things that is always going to make it feel like Star Trek, no matter what you change. And that's also true through all the different series of Sentai or Power Rangers, and even the old movies. And then this movie didn't have that, and nowhere is that more evident than with the Goldar monster. That was just like, that's like a weird monster of the week. That's not Goldar, like.
The thing that got me with Goldar specifically is I liked what they were trying to do with it, but it looked too weird.
I would have liked it if it was still kind of drippy and like made of gold, but he gained sentience and spoke and was like, finally, my Empress, I'm alive. You've been building this, and he and gets a bit of a snout and like becomes a bit of a personality because that you want to root against them. And if it's just like, and the Megazord doesn't talk, it's not like Optimus Prime. So what we had was like a robot that has no emotions or ability to talk against a pile of gold that has no emotions or ability to talk. And now they're both piloted, but they couldn't really talk to each other. So it was a very weird, unemotional, uninvolved fight. Like, the fate of the world's at stake, but for the combatants, all we would see is shots of the pilot Rangers like, oh, and then once in a while reader like, ah. And it was almost like they weren't connected in a way that made the audience care, which is, I guess that's a little different than the broader thing, but just that's in terms of cinematography, that always bothered me.
I didn't like also with the Zord specifically how everybody was in their own cockpit for better or worse. Like, that was super weird to me where it's like, oh, I'm at the knee joint. Let me try to figure this out. Like, I didn't love that stylistically and in practicality.
Well, going back to you make a good point for like logic and style, but going back
Hmm.
to the emotional, kind of like when I was saying anybody after neutral should be a bad guy.
Hmm.
Emotionally, Power Rangers, one of the biggest themes is teamwork and friendship and coming together. And so they all have their own Zords, and then they come together and work together, and they're more powerful than ever before in that cockpit, and they're all working together, yelling. It's a
Hmm.
team. And so forgetting about everything else, just from like a sentimental, romantic, like what is the point of this?
Yep.
Visually, they should come together as a team. And so it was a weird decision to not do that. You're right. And that's,
Yep.
again, doesn't make it a bad movie. It's like, but it's like that makes it a little less Power Rangers.
Yeah.
The
I
power of the Power
I
Rangers. Yes, Dally Girl.
I'm I've told this, I don't remember if I said it on the stream, but I've said it numerous times when talking about the film, and I know we've just said a lot of bad things about it, but I want to bring it back to a good note. I enjoy it in the sense of, if it is one of many, I think it is strong.
Mm,
Not the strongest ever, but it laid the foundation. It took the extra time to make us care about these renditions
yes.
of these
I
characters
like
that
the
we've known.
actors. The actors playing like
Hmm.
I had no problem with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything about that I'm a huge fan of. But if you made us sit through all of that backstory and not let us see them progress and not
Right.
have to learn
Right.
about all these little intricate details before they get their powers and things, that's where you lose me.
I agree, and that's I think subconsciously that's why Godzilla made me think of it, because I'm a Godzilla fan as well, and
Hmm.
the 2014 movie was fine. It was good, and it was kind of like how I felt
Yeah.
out about Power Rangers. It was like they set a lot of foundation, like who's Godzilla, who are the scientists, what are we doing,
What happened?
right?
Yeah.
And it was fine, but after that movie, I said like that was fine. It kind of gets me excited for the next one, and I was right, and the next one was amazing, and I loved it. And so if Power Rangers does the same thing, like they're saying that it's probably going to be a reboot, but whether it's a reboot or a straight up sequel, we know who these characters are. We get it now. I mean, obviously we as fans do, but the American public in general does. It's kind
Hmm.
of like when they reboot Spider-Man for the third time. We don't need to
Hmm.
see him get bit by the spider. Everybody
Exactly.
knows. It's enough already. And so I feel like whatever else they do, we don't want an origin story. We want teamwork, and we want the designs to kind of be reminiscent of what they used to be.
Hmm.
And there could be more, but I feel like that those are the three big ones. And like I said, we're kind of getting to the end of the show, so I don't want to dive too deep.
The two, and they're fairly surface level
Yeah.
examples that I can think of ways that maybe they can go with Power Rangers going forward is the Bumblebee movie that came out this last year and X-Men
Yes.
Days of Future Past. X-Men, I'm not going to go into as much for spoilers. I highly
Mhm.
recommend you see that movie. I really like
Oh,
it.
I
Some
loved it.
people, it's up and down, I've learned recently. But
Hmm.
with Bumblebee specifically, when it came out, it had a lot of things that we were familiar with.
Yeah.
But at the end of the movie, the biggest question you and I asked each other, and everybody on the internet did as well, is this a reboot or is this a prequel?
Right.
And
And
that's what it was. And for a while, it seemed like it was a soft reboot where some of the things that you guys really like and we really like, that's in continuity.
right.
Some of the things that you really didn't like and we learned that you didn't like is not in continuity.
Yeah.
So let's just agree to kind of go forward and remember the good and forget the bad.
Right.
And then they said, "Oh, it's a reboot."
And
Okay.
that's because of how much money it made and how successful it was.
Exactly.
And that's fine because it is a business. So if they come out with a new Power Rangers movie that we all like, we all got to go see it and let them know that that's the way they
Yeah.
should go. I will make my final comment again, going back to the art side of it.
Yeah.
This seems a little bit of a tangent, but I think it gets to the point when we're talking about like, well, I'll just stick with the uniform specifically, although it applies to all the art design.
Mhm.
There's a character in DC Comics called Booster Gold. He's a lesser known character. He's one of my favorites, as the Bigdawg knows, which I was last.
Yeah.
He traditionally had this goofy big collar back in the 80s. It was kind of a dumb outfit. I still liked him, but like, by today's standards, like, why would he have that? Whatever. Over the years, he had been redesigned by his creator, and the collar was gone, and he got a more metallic look. He still looked like Booster Gold, but it was a more modern, cooler look. And after being that for a few years, DC Comics rebooted a bunch of stuff. And Jim Lee, who's a great artist, he's one of the most well-known artists in the world. He's worked on every book you could think of, Batman, X-Men. He's a big muckety-muck at DC. They had him redesign the Justice League and a couple other characters. And for the most part, he got rid of the underwear and put a little piping, and he didn't really change them too much. You might have liked it, you might have not, but you still knew it was Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. Booster Gold, for some reason, was one of the characters he redesigned. And issue with that was he redesigned him and looked kind of a lot like these Justice League characters. You could kind of tell it was Booster Gold, but the fans of Booster Gold, the few there are, started calling him Booster Blue because he used to be a very gold, shiny character with a little bit of blue. When he redesigned him, he was mostly blue with like a yellow star, and he lost a lot of the things that made him look like Booster Gold. And I went to a panel at Comic-Con a couple of years back when this happened, and he was doing some art tutorials, and if you get a chance to see him draw, I recommend it. Hey, Ronnie Gunther. Oh, you're coming in right as we're about to finish, but I am talking about art. And so I got a chance to ask Jim Lee a question, and I said, hi, and I deliberately didn't want to attack him over it. I really just wanted to know what his thought process was.
Yeah.
And I said, hi, I know you did the redesigns for all the Justice League and this and that. Is it true you also redesigned the new Booster Gold? And he, I guess, had gotten some flack because he's like, yeah, why? You prefer the old version where you had the big collar? And everyone's like, ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, well, no, and then they moved on, because it wasn't a debate format and whatever. This is not a story about how I don't like Jim Lee. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's a good artist. I want to be clear about that. It was just like,
yeah.
But what it made clear to me was that Jim Lee knew what Booster Gold looked like from a comic from 1985 and had not looked at him since. And so he said, what's Booster Gold? Here, this is a cool Booster Gold. Meanwhile, missing that the version, he didn't change it from the color version. He changed it from the cool metallic sleek time travel suit he had that all the fans had been enjoying for the last 10 years. And that goes back to what I'm saying. One of the greatest artists in the world didn't understand the source material, didn't have affection for it, and did a bad job. He's a great artist, he's a great storyteller, but didn't understand the source material. And I think that's what happened with Power Rangers. Because those suits in a vacuum, they're kind of cool looking. They kind of have that weird translucent, and I don't have an issue with them. They just don't feel like Power Rangers, just like Booster Blue didn't feel like Booster Gold. And that's kind of my parting thought on that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential. I'm very hopeful, and hopefully in San Diego next month, we find out more about this movie, any details. We find out just what their exclusive is going to be, because I can't wait to hear about it. And just kind of looping it back, the reason that this Godzilla is so good is because it stayed true to what made it great and why people like it.
Yes.
And our hope is that Power Rangers does the same under Hasbro now.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. All right, so we're going to close out. I want to say a few things right before we finish. One is, if you're not a part of our Facebook group, check it out. It's Action Activate. I'll put a link below when it goes on Facebook. You can find it just by searching Action Activate with an exclamation point. We're going to put up the final version of the alignment chart, and then you can feel free to share it all over and let people know the word of Action Activate. The other thing is, contest. You win this cruise. I send it to you. I pay for shipping. Comment in the YouTube. Say that you want it, and I will randomly pick one, and whoever gets it gets a free cruise figure. The other thing is, as I've said before, this is something we kind of do on the side. I'm an artist full time. Bigdawg has his job, which is not art related. And we do shows and things. So I love doing this. We love doing this, but we're carving a niche out of our time. And so the bigger it gets, the more you could share it, the more people watch it, whether on YouTube, the Facebook. We will devote more time to it. We'll have be able to make the show better. We'll be able to make the activities better, whatever. So please share it around. Let people know. There's a lot of video stuff I'd like to do, and I just can never find time to do it because it's hard to prioritize it at this point. But I did make ending credits. It's not credits, but there's an ending little scene I'm going to throw up. So this is an example of one tiny thing I found time to do that if it was a bigger channel, I'd have time to do more of this sort of thing. So
I haven't seen this. I'm curious.
No, you haven't. It's not that big a deal. I don't mean to play it up too much. I want to redo the opening credits eventually too, but again, it's a time thing. Let's see. Ronnie says, "Okay, come to show me." Well, I appreciate the support, Ronnie. And you could always rewatch it on YouTube if you care about the beginning you missed. Although Ronnie's also an artist, so oddly, I think this little ending part was probably the part he'd enjoy the most. So, Dolly Girl, thanks again for watching. You are welcome. So, after we say goodbye, stick around for a second. You can watch the little outro if you so care. But until next time, I am the Gazbot Knight.
I am the Dawg Defender.
And we are saying goodbye, and may the power protect you.
See you guys later.
I have to find the end credits now. Okay, I found it. Here it goes.